The tragic fall of Pontius Pilate, the governor who crucified Jesus. In the annals of history, few figures embody the weight of moral failure and tragic consequence like Pontius Pilate. His name echoes through time, not as a symbol of power or governance, but as the reluctant arbiter of a decision that forever changed the course of humanity. Pilate's role in the crucifixion of Jesus Christ has been endlessly analyzed, debated, and condemned, casting him as a man trapped between the machinations of politics and the stirrings of his own conscience. Yet who was this man, truly? What drove him to wash his hands of responsibility in one of history's most profound moments? And what became of him after the execution that immortalized his name in infamy? The story of Pontius Pilate is one of ambition, cruelty, and ultimate despair, a tale as compelling as it is haunting. If this exploration resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history's most complex figures. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspectives on Pilate's tragic legacy. 1. A man of Rome. Pilate's rise to power. Pontius Pilate was born in the rolling hills of Campania, near Benevento, a region renowned for its fertility and strategic location in southern Italy. His family, the Ponti, belonged to the plebeian class, commoners within the rigid hierarchy of Roman society, but they were not without ambition. Though their name held little weight compared to the patrician families dominating the Roman Senate, the Ponti had built a reputation through diligence, military service, and an uncanny ability to align themselves with the right patrons at opportune moments. Pilate's modest upbringing, compared to the nobility, instilled in him a deep drive to ascend the social ladder of Rome. In the Rome of Pilate's youth, ambition and opportunity were inextricably linked. The city, the epicenter of an empire stretching from Britannia to Egypt, was a swirling vortex of political machinations, military campaigns, and social competition. For a man of Pilate's standing, achieving prominence required equal measures of cunning and connections. Pilate's early career likely adhered to the cursus honorum, the sequence of public offices that marked a Roman man's rise. However, for someone of plebeian stock, this journey was fraught with challenges. Success depended on cultivating powerful allies and demonstrating unwavering loyalty to the empire. Pilate's path to power truly gained momentum under the influence of Lucius Aelius Sejanus, the Praetorian prefect and close advisor to Emperor Tiberius. Sejanus, a man of immense ambition and ruthless determination, was effectively the second most powerful figure in the empire during Pilate's ascent. Recognizing Pilate's potential as a loyal client, Sejanus used his considerable influence to secure Pilate's appointment as the fifth governor, praefectus, of Judea in 26 CE. This was no ordinary favor. Governing Judea was a significant yet perilous post. The province, a volatile frontier, was rife with tensions between the Roman administration and the local Jewish population. Its capital, Jerusalem, was a crucible of religious fervor and nationalist resistance. For the ambitious Pilate, this governorship was both a challenge and an opportunity, a chance to prove his mettle, expand his influence, and possibly secure a more prestigious post in Rome. However, it was also a high-stakes gamble. Failure in Judea could lead to political ruin, or worse. Sejanus's patronage came with high expectations. As a loyal ally of the prefect, Pilate was expected to embody the efficiency and authority that Sejanus demanded of his protégé. Yet, Sejanus's reputation for ruthless power consolidation and his eventual fall from grace cast a shadow over Pilate's career. leaving the governor's position in Judea precarious from the outset. To Pilate, Judea represented both a crucible and a proving ground. As a Roman province on the empire's eastern frontier, it held strategic significance, but was notoriously difficult to govern. The region was a tinderbox of cultural and religious tensions, where the Jewish population's deep-seated monotheism often clashed with Rome's polytheistic traditions. Pilate's task was to enforce Roman authority while balancing the delicate relationship with local customs and the influential Jewish Sanhedrin. For a provincial administrator, Judea offered the opportunity to demonstrate both strength and diplomacy, qualities highly prized in Rome's governors. Success in such a challenging post could propel Pilate to greater heights within the empire. Yet the risks were equally profound. Pilate's tenure in Judea would test his ability to navigate not only the volatile political landscape of the province, but also the shifting winds of imperial favor back in Rome, where alliances were fragile and fortunes could change in an instant. Ultimately, Pilate's rise to power was emblematic of the broader dynamics of the Roman Empire, a complex interplay of ambition, loyalty, and the precarious balancing act required to survive and thrive in one of history's most cutthroat political systems. Second governor of a volatile province. When Pontius Pilate assumed the governorship of Judea in 26 CE, he inherited one of the most precarious provinces in the Roman Empire. Situated on the empire's eastern frontier, Judea was both a vital strategic asset and a perpetual source of unrest. Its population was a mosaic of Jewish sects, Samaritans, and other groups, all deeply resentful of Roman rule. For the Jewish majority, Roman occupation was not merely a political imposition, but a profound religious affront, as it clashed with their monotheistic convictions and strict adherence to Mosaic law. Pilate's mandate, like that of his predecessors, was unambiguous: maintain order, ensure the smooth collection of taxes, and uphold Roman authority. However, the means of achieving these objectives were fraught with complexity. Governing Judea required a careful balance between enforcing imperial policies and respecting the unique traditions and religious sensitivities of the local population. Yet, Pilate approached his role with an unyielding and often heavy-handed disposition, ignoring or outright challenging these cultural and religious nuances, a choice that would have dire and lasting consequences. From the outset, Pilate's administration was marked by provocation. Shortly after his arrival, he ordered the Roman military to carry their standards, emblems adorned with images of Emperor Tiberius, into Jerusalem. For the Roman soldiers, these standards symbolized their allegiance to the emperor, but for the Jewish population, they constituted idolatry, a blatant violation of the second commandment forbidding graven images. The response was immediate and fierce. Crowds of Jewish protesters converged on Pilate's headquarters in Caesarea, demanding the removal of the standards. Pilate, interpreting their protest as a direct challenge to Roman authority, initially resisted. When the crowds persisted, he escalated the situation, threatening mass execution. To his astonishment, the protesters bared their necks, prepared to die, rather than accept what they viewed as sacrilege. Faced with such resolute defiance, Pilate reluctantly ordered the standards removed. While this decision avoided bloodshed, the incident set a combative tone for his governorship, one of insensitivity, provocation, and strained relations with the Jewish community. This contentious pattern continued with Pilate's decision to construct an aqueduct to bring fresh water into Jerusalem. While the project could have been seen as a public good, it was marred by his decision to finance it using sacred temple funds. For the Jewish population, this act was not merely an economic affront, but a sacrilegious violation of their faith. The funds in question were considered consecrated to God, and their diversion for a Roman infrastructure project inflamed tensions across the province. As protests against the aqueduct intensified, Pilate resorted to violence. Disguising soldiers as civilians and arming them with concealed weapons, he infiltrated the crowds. At his signal, these soldiers attacked, killing and injuring many demonstrators. Though this brutal crackdown temporarily suppressed dissent, it deepened the population's resentment toward Roman rule and Pilate's leadership in particular. His reliance on violence, rather than negotiation or diplomacy, left a legacy of fear and bitterness that would haunt his tenure. Throughout his governorship, Pilate's approach to governance remained defined by a reliance on intimidation and force. When confronted with protests, religious disputes, or challenges to Roman authority, his responses were invariably harsh. While such measures were not uncommon among Roman provincial governors, Pilate's disregard for the unique religious dynamics of Judea amplified the consequences of his actions. His repeated provocations, whether intentional or stemming from ignorance, ensured that he would be remembered not as a pragmatic administrator, but as a tyrant in the eyes of the Jewish people. Pilate's oppressive tactics may have enforced order in the short term, but they sowed the seeds of his eventual downfall. His actions alienated not only the Jewish population, but also the local elites, who might have otherwise acted as intermediaries between Rome and the people. The resentment he cultivated across Judea contributed to his vulnerability during his most infamous decision, the trial and crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. By the time Pilate was summoned to Rome to answer for his governance, following a violent crackdown on Samaritans, his tenure in Judea had become a cautionary tale, a case study in the dangers of ruling through fear without understanding. 3. The Trial of Jesus. Pontius Pilate's name is irrevocably entwined with the trial and crucifixion of Jesus Christ, an event that has immortalized him in the annals of history. As recorded in the Gospel accounts, Pilate found himself enmeshed in a politically and religiously charged confrontation. The Jewish authorities, represented by the Sanhedrin, had arrested Jesus and brought him to Pilate, accusing him of claiming the title King of the Jews. This accusation carried dangerous implications, suggesting rebellion against Roman authority and challenging the fragile order Pilate was tasked with maintaining. Pilate's initial reaction to the accusations was one of skepticism. Jesus, an unarmed and seemingly peaceful figure, did not fit the mold of a revolutionary. During a private interrogation, as recounted in the Gospel of John, Pilate asked, "Are you the King of the Jews?" Jesus' responses were cryptic and philosophical, culminating in the statement that his kingdom was not of this world. This claim perplexed Pilate, who, in one of the most enduring moments of the trial, posed the rhetorical question, "What is truth?" Left unanswered, this inquiry has echoed through the centuries as a symbol of moral and philosophical ambiguity, casting Pilate as a figure grappling with existential uncertainty. The trial revealed Pilate as a man caught in a profound moral and political dilemma. On the one hand, he appeared to recognize Jesus' innocence, declaring multiple times, "I find no fault in this man." Pilate even attempted to leverage the Passover tradition of releasing a prisoner to spare Jesus' life, offering the crowd a choice between Jesus and the notorious Barabbas. To his dismay, the crowd, incited by the Jewish authorities, demanded Barabbas' release and called for Jesus' crucifixion. Pilate's efforts to avoid condemning Jesus, though persistent, ultimately faltered in the face of unrelenting public pressure. On the other hand, Pilate faced immense political stakes. Judea was a province rife with unrest, and the threat of an uprising loomed large. The Jewish leaders exploited Pilate's vulnerabilities, warning him that releasing Jesus would be seen as an act of disloyalty to Emperor Tiberius. Their ominous declaration, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar," struck directly at Pilate's precarious position as governor. The suggestion that he might be harboring a would-be king was a direct threat to his career and personal security, forcing Pilate to weigh his judgment against the demands of imperial politics. Torn between his recognition of Jesus' innocence and the escalating fervor of the crowd, Pilate wavered. In a final, futile attempt to placate the mob, he ordered Jesus flogged, hoping this punishment would suffice. Yet the crowd's cries for crucifixion only grew louder, leaving Pilate with little room to maneuver. Ultimately, he capitulated to their demands, but not without attempting to symbolically absolve himself of responsibility. In a public display, Pilate washed his hands before the assembly, declaring, "I am innocent of this man's blood," and placed the burden of guilt on the people who clamored for Jesus' death. This gesture of absolution, however, could not erase the gravity of his decision. By authorizing the crucifixion of Jesus, Pilate secured temporary peace in a volatile province, but cemented his legacy as a symbol of moral weakness and compromise. His decision, rooted in political expediency and fear, has echoed through history as an enduring testament to the tragic consequences of sacrificing justice for self-preservation. In this moment, Pilate's struggle encapsulates the perennial human conflict between ethical conviction and pragmatic survival, leaving his name forever marked by the weight of his choice. The price of power. The crucifixion of Jesus was not the conclusion of Pilate's challenges, but rather the harbinger of his eventual downfall. Reports of his governance continued to reach Rome, portraying him as a ruler increasingly incapable of managing the delicate balance of authority in Judea. His administration was plagued by accusations of corruption, excessive brutality, and a blatant disregard for local customs, characteristics that had sown deep resentment among the population throughout his tenure. Pilate's final act as governor proved to be his undoing. In 36 CE, a Samaritan religious leader claimed to have discovered sacred relics on Mount Gerizim, drawing a large and enthusiastic following. Viewing this assembly as a potential insurrection, Pilate ordered his soldiers to intervene. The result was a massacre, a display of force that incited outrage across the region. Complaints against Pilate's actions reached Lucius Vitellius, the governor of Syria and Pilate's superior. Vitellius, appalled by Pilate's inability to manage the situation diplomatically, deemed his actions unacceptable and ordered his immediate removal from office. Pilate was subsequently recalled to Rome to face charges of mismanagement. By the time Pilate arrived in Rome, his fortunes had taken a devastating turn. Emperor Tiberius, whose patronage had once protected and advanced Pilate's career, had died. His successor, Caligula, was infamous for his erratic behavior and had little tolerance for officials who had fallen out of favor. Stripped of his governorship, Pilate found himself exiled to Gaul, a remote and desolate region far removed from the power and prestige he had once wielded as a Roman governor. According to later traditions, Pilate's life ended in obscurity and disgrace. Some accounts suggest that he committed suicide, a fate not uncommon among Roman officials who faced the irreparable loss of honor and status. While the historical accuracy of these accounts remains uncertain, they reflect the broader perception of Pilate's fall. By the time of his death, his legacy had already been sealed. He was remembered not as a capable administrator, but as the man who, despite knowing the truth, chose to sacrifice justice on the altar of expediency. This singular decision, to prioritize political survival over moral conviction, would forever define Pilate's place in history. His life stands as a cautionary tale of the price of power, a stark reminder of how the pursuit of authority can lead to the forfeiture of one's integrity, leaving behind a legacy of regret and infamy. 5. A tormented end. The circumstances surrounding Pontius Pilate's death remain cloaked in uncertainty, with historical and traditional accounts offering conflicting narratives. Among early Roman historians, the most widely accepted theory is that Pilate died by suicide. Recalled to Rome after his dismissal as governor of Judea, Pilate likely faced public disgrace and the looming possibility of criminal charges for his mismanagement of the Volatile province. In the Roman political system, where honor and reputation were paramount, disgraced officials often saw suicide as their sole remaining act of agency, a final effort to preserve a shred of dignity. Overwhelmed by guilt over his decisions and despair over his ruined career, Pilate may have chosen this path. Alternative accounts, however, suggest a more brutal ending. Early Christian sources, such as the writings of the church historian Eusebius, claim that Pilate was executed by order of Emperor Caligula. Caligula, known for his intolerance of perceived weakness or disloyalty among officials, may have viewed Pilate's role in suppressing uprisings in Judea and the Samaritan massacre as evidence of incompetence or liability to the empire. If true, this account portrays Pilate not as a figure of tragic self-destruction, but as a casualty of Rome's unforgiving political machinery. Yet another, more enigmatic tradition casts Pilate in a different light. Some early Christian writings and folklore suggest that Pilate, haunted by his role in the crucifixion of Jesus, sought redemption in his final days. This narrative portrays him as a man deeply tormented by his complicity in condemning an innocent man. According to these accounts, Pilate embraced the teachings of Christ, seeking solace and forgiveness for his actions. Though there is no historical evidence to support this claim, the idea of Pilate's conversion highlights the enduring power of the Christian narrative of repentance and redemption. In an extraordinary twist, certain traditions within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and the Coptic Church elevate Pilate and his wife, Claudia Procula, to the status of saints. These traditions assert that Pilate eventually repented of his role in Jesus' death and embraced the faith of the man he had sentenced to die. The Ethiopian Synaxarium, a collection of saints' lives, commemorates Pilate on June 25th, celebrating his repentance as a testament to the transformative power of Christ's forgiveness. This veneration offers a profoundly different perspective on Pilate's legacy. Rather than being remembered solely as the man who condemned Jesus, these traditions reframe his story as one of hope and restoration. Pilate becomes a symbol of the possibility for redemption, illustrating that even the gravest mistakes can be overcome through sincere repentance. For the Ethiopian and Coptic faithful, his story is a reminder of the boundless reach of divine mercy, transforming a narrative of guilt and failure into one of ultimate restoration. 6. The legacy of Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate occupies a unique and multifaceted place in history. As the Roman governor who presided over the trial and crucifixion of Jesus Christ, his name is immortalized in the Apostles' Creed, recited by Christians worldwide, "Suffered under Pontius Pilate." Yet, Pilate's legacy extends far beyond the role of a mere villain or bureaucratic functionary. His story provides a profound lens through which to explore the human condition, illuminating the moral dilemmas and vulnerabilities that often accompany the exercise of power. Pilate's story stands as a cautionary tale about the corrosive nature of authority and the moral compromises it demands. Faced with a choice between justice and political expediency, he chose the latter, sacrificing an innocent man to secure his own position and avoid political upheaval. His symbolic act of washing his hands has since become a universal emblem of evading responsibility, a stark reminder of the consequences of moral cowardice and the human tendency to prioritize self-preservation over ethical integrity. Yet Pilate's narrative also reveals a deeply human dimension. He was a man caught in the web of circumstance, ambition, and fear, grappling with the immense pressures of his office. In this light, Pilate emerges not as a monstrous figure, but as a mirror, reflecting the moral struggles inherent in all people when confronted with moments of crisis. His actions compel us to confront difficult questions about our own responsibilities and the courage required to uphold justice, even when it demands great personal sacrifice. The traditions that depict Pilate's eventual redemption introduce a hopeful and transformative layer to his legacy. These accounts suggest that even Pilate, the man who condemned Christ, was not beyond the reach of grace. If redemption was possible for him, then it is possible for anyone. This perspective reframes Pilate's story, transforming him from a symbol of failure into a testament to the boundless power of forgiveness and the potential for moral renewal. It calls us to reflect on the opportunities for redemption in our own lives and to embrace the possibility of change. Pilate's legacy, therefore, transcends his role in history. It serves as a philosophical meditation on the complexities of human nature, the weight of power, and the enduring hope for forgiveness and transformation. His story challenges us to navigate our own moral dilemmas with integrity and reminds us of the profound consequences, both personal and universal, of the choices we make.